Welcome into the Bear Squad Show. I am Joe George, post-game host, and is it time for a Caleb Williams breakout?
I'm Adam Sager. The Bears add cornerback CJ Gardner Johnson to an injury-depleted defensive backfield.
And I'm Lauren Cox from Locked On Bears, gearing up for what should be a shootout on Sunday against the Cincinnati Bengals.
Bear down, Chicago. It's the Bears Squad. Everything Chicago Bears, every week. Covering all the big hits and game-changing plays from the Windy City. The way only the Locked On Podcast Network can. From Soldier Field to the next great chapter, the Bears Squad Show starts now.
Welcome into the Bears Squad Show here on the Locked On Bears YouTube channel. Joe George, Adam Sager, and Lauren Cox here with you for the next hour. Today's episode is sponsored by PrizePicks. Download the PrizePicks app today and use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after your first $5 lineup. Guys, we got a lot to talk about today. A lot of people, a lot of fans, compare and contrast Caleb Williams' first 7 games with Ben Johnson to Jared Goff's first 7 games with Ben Johnson. We'll talk about that and what Goff did after and what we think Caleb's going to do after. They add CJ Gardner Johnson, the Bears do, to a team that's depleted with injuries. We'll preview the Bengals game yesterday. No wide receivers practice, basically. So we'll get to that, and we'll talk about just how we're viewing this season as we're basically through the midway point of the year. But Lauren, we'll start with you. I mean, I'm sure you're seeing all the same of this is what Goff did, this is what Caleb did. Their stats are very similar, honestly. Like, it's pretty much the yardage, the completions, the touchdowns. It's all very similar. But so now there's this hope from Bears fans that Jared Goff, who took off after the first 7 games, that Caleb Williams is going to do the exact same thing for Ben Johnson starting this week for the Bengals. So I'm just curious your thoughts on how that's all playing out and what everyone's hoping for.
Yeah, it's just funny to me that I think we spent all offseason saying, hey, the Bears offense is going to be totally different than the Lions offense, so don't compare Caleb Williams and Jared Goff this season. And now we're 7 games, 8 weeks into the season, and we're saying, well, let's see where Caleb Williams is against Jared Goff. And it's the same thing with like comparing him to Drake May or Jaden Daniels even last year, where it's like it's such totally different situations that it's really hard to stack them up side by side. I mean, I think there's value in at least kind of checking in on how Caleb Williams is doing compared to his peers, but I think the more granular you get, the less value there is there to say, well, should his completion percentage be as high as Jared Goff's or what, like whatever it's going to be. It's like, well, it's a different set of receivers running some different sets of routes. There's different running game success, different offensive line that allows the coaches to do different things, and a different defense that puts them in different game scripts that allow them to either pass more or run more. So it's so tricky to really put them side by side at any granular level, but I'm certainly on board with like big picture, like how quickly are they picking up the offense as opposed to like statistically how right next to each other are they actually.
Yeah, and to add to what Lauren said, I mean, this was Jared Goff coming from Sean McVay, coming from playing in a Super Bowl. He had spent years in the NFL, after being the number 1 pick, getting better at the position, and we saw some growth, but the Rams thought they had a chance to really upgrade with Matthew Stafford, while the Lions thought, we're kind of resetting here. Stafford can move on for the end of his career. So I think it's hard to compare those two. They're not the same type of player. They're not the same type of quarterback. So while, yeah, you hope he does take off this week against the Bengals and never looks back, it's hard to expect that still from a second-year player. Yeah, you want to see things continue to get better, as I think we've seen some certain aspects of his game get better week to week. Still enough to work on that it's hard to compare with Jared Goff.
Yeah, I think the point that that people miss is what you just said there, Adam, is that this wasn't Jared Goff's second year in the NFL. Like, he had been in the NFL, he had been to a Super Bowl already at that point, and it's the trajectory is very different. And I get the hope for it, but and to what Lauren was saying about it's not a numbers game. It's more about the big picture. Like, are you going to take that next big step, Caleb? Like, when is that going to happen? Because I think Caleb has looked, I think fine is the way that I would describe it. It hasn't been great all the time, and it hasn't been a total disaster like it was last year at times. It's just been, I think, mostly down the middle. And I think always after Adam and I were talking about this before you jumped on, Lauren, but I was like, everyone after the game freaks out about how Caleb performed. and then you go and rewatch the game, and it feels like it's much better than what you saw in the moment. That's how I feel about it right now. Lauren, how do you view Caleb's performance from this last weekend today versus when we were doing the post-game show on Sunday?
Yeah, I'm definitely on that train of it. It's better when you have time to slow down and look at it in hindsight and see it from better angles, certainly than the TV broadcast where you're watching it once and trying to make snap judgments there. I think it was slightly improved from where we saw him against the Saints, which I think is encouraging. And also, to me, it's all part of this learning curve here, right? Like the mistakes we're seeing him make still feel like things that are a little bit more in the category of like normal, natural progression of a quarterback that's still getting on the same page with receivers and still, really crystallizing the timing of different plays in this offense and still trying to find the balance between when to be the hero and when to just take what's there. And I think we're seeing, we're not seeing it as fast as we wanted to because of how they were winning football games. So it's like, all right, Caleb, like you're winning games, so you should be better, right? And yeah, he's the number 1 overall pick, so we should expect more growth and should keep setting the bar high, but we do need to give him time to reach that bar instead of just setting it at the top and saying, why aren't you there yet?
Yeah, I agree 100% there. And yeah, you look back at this last game. I mean, one play he was getting killed for was that end of the game where he missed DJ Moore, where he threw the rocket. And then we see behind, the play, he missed DJ Moore in the first window, which I think he should have hit him there. But then DJ Moore just stops in the back of the end zone right behind Roquan Smith. And everybody's screaming, how do you miss him that bad? Well, in the view, he has Roquan Smith. I mean, that's a tough throw to make in such a short area to throw the ball. He's expecting DJ Moore to continue to that next window, which was wide open. And the fact that DJ Moore stopped, I mean, part of that's on Caleb Williams for not hitting him in the first window, but then the rest of it's on DJ for stopping right behind the linebacker. So that's where people freak out in the moment and saying, oh my God, what a garbage ball he just threw. He threw the fastball. No, if DJ Moore just continues down the back of the end zone, which for the most part, you're taught as a wide receiver in most passing schemes, it's a touchdown.
And that one too is like, I mean, I get that we want to, it's worth looking at every situation, but that was such a meaningless play too. I mean, right? He catches that touchdown and you're still down 7 or you go for 2 or whatever with 30 seconds left in the game and no timeouts. Like, sure, maybe you could get an onside kick attempt and then maybe a Hail Mary, but realistically, that play had very little impact on the actual game. It was just, you want to see quarterback and receiver connect when you're watching it live and it looks like it should have been an easy play. That's why we get mad at it. Then it's a lot different if that play happens with 30 seconds left in a tie game on 4th down and you lose because you missed that throw. But I don't find that one to be that big of a deal in the big picture.
Yeah, I think the stranger thing with that play specifically, because that was the next one I was going to go to as well, which is one, what you pointed at him. It's very funny. Like, no one seems to care that he missed the first window. Everyone's focused in on, locked in on that he didn't make the second window one, which is more on DJ. But I just can't believe still, Lauren, we haven't seen this connection with DJ and Caleb really grow. It's there with Rome. It's at times early in the season felt like it's there with Zacchaeus. The limited time with Burden has seemed okay. But besides, that one, I mean, it's one of the most remarkable throws we'll see from a quarterback this season when Caleb's off his back foot and he throws it across the field. He's getting pressure. The one he found DJ Moore on, but the consistent relationship with DJ Moore, that to me is more surprising than anything else we've seen. Is that DJ had a good connection with Justin Fields, but him and Caleb seem to just not be able to get on lockstep together, and that is what surprises me more about this season so far, honestly, than anything else.
It does feel like, and I guess I want to get your guys' opinion on this, but the more this happens, the more it feels like DJ Moore is going to be traded at some point. Not during this season, but potentially next offseason, just because Ben Johnson's been very diplomatic about, trying not to call DJ Moore out. I think he's trying to massage that relationship, simultaneously saying, hey, he needs to be better on his routes and follow his landmarks better and do the things we want better, without completely throwing him under the bus because he knows he needs him out there. He can't bench DJ Moore. He's just he's too valuable. So he's trying to play this game of I need to enforce my rules, but also he's not following them the way we need to. And it just feels to me like this offseason, especially if it's another good wide receiver class in the draft, or as Luther Burden continues to develop, if they kind of feel like by the end of this year, he's a little bit more expendable. And, could you flip him for a player you need at another position? And then I think it's harder to sell, like, trade him for a draft pick, because it's like, well, how does that make your team better right now when you're trying to win? But if you could flip him for a pass rusher or a cornerback or something in the offseason, like, it just feels to me like we keep trending more and more towards that.
Yeah, I mean, anytime you see a pass rusher, they're on the trade block. Kayvon Thibodeau was the last one I saw. Oh, trade DJ Moore for him. That's what I keep seeing on Twitter or X, just constantly from fans. Just trade DJ Moore. They're looking for a receiver. They want Jackson Dart to grow. Well, here's DJ Moore. Let's get Kayvon Thibodeau, and it's an easy trade. And while I agree it's probably not going to happen right now with this trade deadline, it does feel like a split is happening here in the near future, meaning next offseason.
In hindsight, real quick, is it a red flag now that, like, Carolina was willing to part with DJ Moore so easily? Not so easily, but, like, I remember it come out like the Bears had wanted Derek Brown on the defensive line, and the Panthers said, no way. We're not. They had a list of guys that were off limits, and DJ Moore was not one of them. And they kind of pretended like, oh, it was so tough for us to get rid of DJ Moore. But I just wonder, like, if there was in hindsight, if there was a reason why he wasn't so untouchable. I mean, he was a 27-year-old 1,000-yard receiver. Those are typically a little bit more untouchable than what it seemed to be for the Bears, who still got quite a bit of stuff in addition to DJ Moore in that trade.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think in hindsight, it does, like, make you, like, want to, like, look back and, like, it is interesting. Like, you got a receiver of that quality and all of that draft capital, so the Panthers could take Bryce Young. Like, it's straight. And I'm with you guys. Like, honestly, from the minute they drafted Burden, I was like, like, this is probably the end of DJ Moore. Like, it's clearly not Rome that's going to be the guy that's gone, but it's like Rome and Burden are going to be your top two receivers by 2026. Like, I've always kind of felt that way. And I'll be honest, like, I wouldn't totally rule out a trade by Tuesday. Like, I don't think it's likely, but I hope Ryan Poles is at least open to taking the phone calls, right? Like, even though, like, you're trying to win this season, and is it best for Caleb's development if DJ Moore is not here? Probably not, but I hope he's at least listening. Like, if someone offers you a high second-round pick, like if the Giants did offer you a second-round pick that's going to be, so in the top 42 pick, I'm listening. Like, I don't know if I'm doing it, but as long as he listens, I'm okay. But I'm with you. I don't think DJ Moore is long for the Bears, and this offseason will get moved for. I'm with you too about, like, get a player, a veteran player. I don't need another draft pick. I need someone that can impact this team from day one on this offense and just make it be so much better.
I think this all hinges on how quickly Luther Burden gets up to speed. And I certainly think the concussion right now almost eliminates the trade deadline possibility, because, like, the only way you do it is if you're fully healthy at wide receiver. And even then, like, I think it's too valuable to Caleb's development, honestly. Like, I don't know that it's worth it for the Bears, even though they're not on the same page. He still makes that one-handed catch for 45 yards in the fourth quarter. Like, DJ Moore is a good football player. Like, we definitely have valid criticisms of detail and route running and finishing plays and sometimes blocking, but, like, he is a talented football player who absolutely does make plays when you need him to. And so I would rather have a frustrating DJ Moore moving the ball sometimes than not having him at all, especially just because when you watch Luther Burden, like, the routes are still not super crisp. He's still not where he needs to be. You can tell, like, there's a reason he is not taking Olamide Zaccheaus' snaps just yet. There are flashes for sure, but he still has a long way to go. And I think these next, 10 games left in the season of Luther Burden are really going to determine their comfort level with potentially moving on from DJ Moore in the future.
Oh, yeah, and just all the injuries. I mean, Rome with the heel, Zaccheaus with, I think, a knee, right? He had a knee injury in the last game. So we don't know the status for them as of right now for this coming week. They did not practice yesterday. We'll see what they do today. But it's just, it's got to be a worry for Ben Johnson and Ryan Poles that, your top four receivers in the most important time for Caleb Williams right now are all down, and you're down to, quite frankly, Devin Duvernay and Jade Walker, and then Colson Loveland. Hopefully you get, I don't know about Cole Kmet. We'll see. It's just it's not a great situation right now. And the one thing about DJ Moore, I'll give him credit for, when he's a little banged up in a game, he still plays. He's still out there playing. We saw him limping around over the last couple weeks, and then he was still out there that next drive. So I'll give him that credit that he's out there playing at least. Now, sometimes he's not running those routes as you'd like, and because I think he knows he's not getting the ball, but at least he's out there, and it will help Caleb over these last 10 games.
Yeah, when I saw the injury report, we'll talk more about it later. My first thought was, hey, maybe we'll see Colston Loveland get a couple more passes thrown his way this weekend. That'd be nice to see, because on a midweek injury report and you see your top 4 wide receivers not practicing it was jarring to say the least when we saw it. All right, we'll take our break here. Speaking of injuries, well, the Bears are without like their top 5 corners right now, so they went out and they made a move. They brought in CJ Gardner Johnson, who's on his 4th team in this calendar year, but his 3rd team this NFL season. What does it mean? What do you expect? We'll get to all of that next year on the Bears Squad Show. Today's show is brought to you by PrizePicks. You and I make decisions every day, but on PrizePicks, being right can get you paid. Don't miss any of the excitement of this sports season, whether you're following NFL, NBA, or both. There's no better time to jump in on the action. And if you haven't tried it yet, PrizePicks is the simplest way to play. Just pick more or less on at least 2 player stats, and if you get them right, you win. It takes less than 60 seconds to make your lineup, and you can play anywhere. PrizePicks operates including California, Texas, and Georgia. The new Stacks feature is a game changer. You can now pick more on Steph Curry's points, threes, and assists in the same lineup. Plus, if one of your players leaves early with an injury, the injury reboot saves my lineup from a loss. Download the PrizePicks app today and use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNFL for $50 in lineups after your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, it's good to be right. All right, so CJ Gardner Johnson. He is a name that, Lauren, I know when we did a show with Taylor, who'll be back with us next week, or with me, because Lauren's leaving me next week. We brought him up right away when the Texans cut him after like week 2 as a potential option, because he played for Dennis Allen. Obviously, everyone knows him from his time with the Saints because of the fights and the hands being thrown in the Bears game a couple times, players being ejected. But CJ Gardner Johnson, now a member of the Bears. Lauren, what are your expectations, hopes? Are they high? Are they low? Where are you at with this move?
Yeah, I think you put it well at the very beginning. When his 4th team this calendar year tells you a lot about where your expectations should be. Like, I think that matters a little bit more than, the name recognition and the, Super Bowl appearances and stuff in the past. Like, I think, big picture, if there's any coaching staff that knows exactly what they're getting with CJ Gardner Johnson, it's this one. He's been on the same staff with Ben Johnson in Detroit. Obviously, Dennis Allen coached him in New Orleans. Like, there's a lot of familiarity with everything that comes with this player. And so I certainly give them more trust and benefit of the doubt than I would, any random coaching staff bringing them up saying, they don't know what they're walking into in that locker room. But I do worry that, the team that had 11 penalties last week against the Ravens adds another guy who gets a lot of penalties, and you hope it can be like a Grayson Allen basketball thing where you hate him when he's on the other team, but you love him when he's on your team because he instigates the other guys. But I don't know. I guess big picture, I'm more glad that they did something to address the cornerback spot. They finally did something, but I don't know. He's been available for a month now, and now they decide to make the move. It's just, I don't know. It's unsatisfying, but better than nothing.
Yeah, it's when I saw it, I just kind of chuckled because of the penalty thing. I was like, well, there's 2 more at least penalties a game added to the Bears. But I mean, did have 6 interceptions last year, played well with Philly. Now that's a much better defense than he's coming to with Chicago. So it's not like the same level of defense, but he adds some veteran help that, I mean, McLeod's terrible. Nahshon Wright is way up, way down. I mean, it's just, you needed somebody, and at least Dennis Allen and Ben Johnson have been on coaching staffs with him, Dennis Allen on his defense. So he knows kind of what he brings in terms of as a player, and he can step right in and understand the defense for the most part and where he needs to be. So like Lauren, I'm glad they did something. Not a big CJ Gardner Johnson fan, but it's something that helps until Tyreek and Kyler Gordon can get back here in the next month or so, whenever they can get back.
Yeah, I think it's just the harsh reality that Kyler Gordon's going on injured reserve, and you have to make a move. Because earlier in the season, they were just like questionable, didn't play. plays, gets hurt again, then he's back. So like it's been this roller coaster for Kyler Gordon. But now you have more of at least a concrete timeline for at least the next 4 weeks that you're without Kyler Gordon. So you bring in someone that can fill that gap. And when he was asked about how soon he expects to play, CJ Gardner Johnson said, "I'll see you Sunday." So I don't know if he was told that by the Bears coaching staff and front office.
Oh, he's playing.
You're going to play, and you're going to play a lot. But I mean, he knows the defense, so that helps. And he's better than McLeod. He is better. Now, I have other concerns about CJ Gardner Johnson. Like the reporting, here in Houston is that he was questioning players' contracts on his own team, like a team he had just got to. Penalties are one thing. Going to a new locker room and being like, why are you playing me this way? And I'm making this much money, and this guy is playing the position I want to play in. We're all kind of assuming Jalen Petrie, and he's making a ton of money. I don't like that. Like that makes me nervous. So maybe I'm hoping they had the conversation of, hey, please don't do that here. But also, you're better than some of these guys on the roster already.
Well, I think the Bears look at it and say, no one playing in the secondary right now has a big contract, so he's got nothing to complain about. Like,
It's true.
He's gonna yell at injured Jalen Johnson or injured Kyler Gordon, but those are the only guys making any money back there. And honestly, I wouldn't mind if he yelled at Dio Odengbo about his contract or Grady Jarrett about his contract. You guys are making that much money. Like maybe the Bears could use a little bit of this in the locker room. Like it's a very, very fine line there, but they could use a little bit more juice, a little bit more energy on defense. They don't quite have that person that's really firing them up and getting them going. Like I think Grady Jarrett was kind of supposed to be that, and we see a little bit of it now that he's back on the defensive line. But on the back end here, there's not a vocal energy guy there. They're all a little bit more soft-spoken, and that's not necessarily a bad thing, but it is nice to have kind of one guy to sort of shift the balance the other direction.
Yeah, and if you think about it, I mean, first of all, I don't think he's going to do that kind of stuff with Dennis Allen. Dennis Allen's a much different coach. Even D'Amico is younger, so it's still as a head coach and as a defensive guy. I know he's got this, lore there in Houston, but CJ Gardner Johnson just comes in. He don't care. So I think with Dennis Allen and Ben Johnson, I think he'll kind of keep that noise down a little bit. But yeah, to Lauren's point, I think he'll come in. I think Jaquan Brisker, he'll learn a little bit from him how he plays, and now hopefully not the penalty part, but I think he can get a little bit better learning from him as well as he has, from Kevin Byard as well.
One question I want to pose to you guys: how long do you think CJ Gardner Johnson is on the Bears roster this season? Do you cut him when Kyler Gordon gets back? Does he make it until Kyler Gordon gets back, or is there an incident that happens before that and they say, screw it, this is a 2-week thing and then you're out of here? Or do you keep him in the slot and have Kyler Gordon play the outside? They haven't tried that yet really this season with Gordon because he's only played 2 games of actual meaningful snaps. Like what do you guys see as the timeline for this?
I feel like he's either on this roster the rest of the season or he doesn't make it to Kyler Gordon's return. Like I think it's going to be very extreme. Like this is going to be a very short-lived experiment, or it's going to work out because even when Kyler comes back, like whether you want to play him on the outside, we don't really know the answer about Jalen Johnson. Like we all have been told he's going to play again this year, but like I'll kind of believe it when I see it. So you have some flexibility. And then when Kyler is back, like his first game back, he wasn't taking all the snaps. We were seeing he wasn't out there for 100% of the defensive snaps. So you're going to ease him back in when he's healthy. And just because his 4-week window, his 21-day window opens doesn't mean he plays in that game immediately following. So I really feel like it's going to be extreme. Like it might be like this might be his only game with the Bears, or he's here the rest of the year. Adam?
Yeah, I think, hopefully Tyreek can play this week. If not, he's back, probably the week after. I think that helps. But you still have Gardner Johnson in the slot. Kyler's still at least 3 weeks from play, 3 games plus, so 4 games away from playing at the minimum. So I guess we'll see how it goes over those next. I know that's not really an answer, but I think this next month of games will really tell us about if he's going to stay, because I think Nahshon Wright, he just adds some depth even when Kyler Gordon comes back, and you don't have to depend on McLeod when you go into a dime situation or something. You can bring in Gardner Johnson. You can kind of move him around and do different things with him. So I would say he's on the team longer than he's not this season as of right now. But I think this next month of how he plays will really tell us.
Yeah, I have a theory that even when Kyler Gordon gets back, that they'll want to use him in that role. They were using Jonathan Owens in the dime package, like you talked about. Like,
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
something at the bye week they have pretty consistently stopped doing. Jonathan Owens played 8 or 9 snaps a game for the first 4 games of the season, and since then he played 3 against the Commanders and 2 against the Saints, and then he did not play at all against the Ravens. So they've clearly, because I think a lot of the injuries, they just can't go to dime package, but they've also had more, loaded boxes with more linebackers and stuff on the field. But I do wonder if, as they get healthier in the secondary, he can play more of like a third safety, 6 cornerback kind of hybrid role, as long as he can stay out of trouble and not, piss off the coaching staff too much. That's probably the biggest question here.
All right, so the next time we do one of these shows, it'll be Tuesday night, the live midweek show at least. It'll be after the deadline, so we'll be doing kind of a reaction show that night. Lauren, like now that they've made this move, do you anticipate anything else, or do you feel like it's going to be kind of quiet here for the Bears?
Yeah, I mean, I think short of another injury, I think it'll be quiet, just because Ryan Poles has had all season to address these positions, and I'm not really sure that enough has changed where like, oh, now all of a sudden we're going to get a pass rusher, right? I mean, like I know Shamar Turner goes on injured reserve and Dominic Robinson's hurt a little bit, but like they activated Austin Booker, and that's been it. Like I don't know what will change between now and next Tuesday to really pull the trigger on some deal. I mean, I guess other than a team, another like an opposing team that has a player you're interested in, they lose on Sunday, and now they're willing to get rid of a player they weren't before. But for the most part, like pass rush has been a problem this whole time. Cornerback depth has been a problem this whole time. They've addressed it in really small ways with Gardner Johnson and Austin Booker, and that to me feels like Ryan Poles saying, see, I did something. That's enough. We should be good to go. And I think they should do more, but I don't think they will.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. One thing I hope is whoever, if it's Kevin Warren, I don't know who it is, just tell Ryan Poles not to trade a high draft pick for anybody right now, because it's not worked out 2 times in a row. Let's not do it. It's not needed right now. But, I've seen Marshawn Lattimore connected to the Bears as a name that, again, has played for Dennis Allen in the past. Washington could be looking to trade him. He's kind of extra on their roster. Maybe you do like a late round, 6th round for Lattimore and a 7th, like we've seen a lot of trades coming. Something like that I could see small that gives you some more depth there at the corner, and maybe you're not knowing if Tyreek Stevenson, how he's going to react. Maybe they make that move just in case. So maybe something small like that, but I don't see anything major. I don't see a big time pass rusher being traded for or anything like that.
Yeah, like the Dolphins are kind of hot and heavy in rumors about moving both of their pass rushers. I don't think the Bears look there to fill the void for this season. And I'm with you. Like I don't really want to trade another 2nd round pick right now. Save that move for the offseason. Save that move for when you can acquire a player that is under contract or is really about to get moved, and just kind of wait it out a little bit. Like I don't think we're going to see. We've seen a lot of trades so far this year, and it sounds like we're going to have an active deadline. I just don't anticipate the Bears being a very heavy participant in it. And it's interesting, like, could they sell? I mean, we mentioned DJ Moore earlier. Like, I don't think so. I don't think there's really anything to move either. You don't have, if Braxton Jones was healthy, maybe, but there's really outside of that. Like, you don't have a piece that you're looking at and say, okay, who wants, I don't know, anyone else who wants Cole Kmet? Like, I don't think Cole Kmet's getting calls when he's not healthy. So I expect it to be a pretty quiet deadline, except for maybe a move like you mentioned, Adam. That's a late round swap for a veteran player that's contract expires at the end of the season.
Yeah, it's worth noting that the Bears just don't have that much salary cap space. Like, I think we've been so used to like every year, they got 20, 25 million. They could make a move if they want to. And we know like the salary cap is a little bit of a myth in the sense of like you can always restructure a contract and create a bunch of space if you need to. But it's more so like it's a small obstacle that, right? It's like if you're going to trade for somebody with a big contract, not only do you have to give up everything, but you also have to then mortgage your future and restructure DJ Moore's contract, which makes him hard to trade, and restructure Cole Kmet's contract makes him harder to trade. Like it adds to the cost of any big deal. It doesn't make it so they can't trade for anybody. It just makes it like, 5-10% harder to make that trade. It makes it just a little bit less likely that they would be willing to do that step in addition to giving out the big contract and sending the draft picks and everything else. Like I agree. It's going to be small potatoes type of deal or nothing.
Yeah, and that's that reason there is why you can't trade a second round pick for somebody, because Ryan Poles needs to start drafting and hitting on these second round picks because they are cheaper for a few years. He's got 3 this past year that none. I mean, Trapillo is the 6th offensive lineman, comes in. We saw him play a handful of plays this week as the 6th offensive lineman. Turner just got hurt. He's out for the year, and we'll see how long it takes to come back. And Luther Burden right now is out with a concussion. So he needs to be hitting on these picks so they are cheap, so you can help your salary cap, so you can spend in the places you need to, instead of trading them away for expensive pieces like Montez Sweat or Chase Claypool, who really haven't worked out. I mean, Claypool was a bust, but Sweat has not worked out as you had hoped.
Yeah, I think it's a good point because, like, with the hitting on draft picks, it sounds weird with how we kind of started the show about Caleb Williams breakout, but like in the blink of an eye, we're gonna be talking about Caleb Williams like big contracts. I mean, it's you can pay him in 2 years. Like, you're not far away from being able to give out big contracts to guys like Roma Dunze and Caleb Williams. That's why it is important to hit on this draft capital and not just keep trading it away for players that are already more expensive. And I think they have, like, to Laura's point, I think it's like $7 million in cap space right now. So it's a low number. Like, you can't really do a lot with $7 million in the NFL these days. So yeah, it's gonna be a quiet one. It'll be fun, like, to see what's happening across the NFL. And you never know, Ryan Poles might surprise us, and I feel like if he surprises us, we might be more upset than happy in the moment.
It's going to be a lot of that SpongeBob meme where Squidward's up in the little like treehouse and he's looking down at Patrick and SpongeBob frolicking, and he's just like, why aren't we out there being a part of it? But at the same time, I think we're all kind of on the same page of like, this is not the time to mortgage the future and go big just yet.
I would rather someone just take his phone and hide it than him trade for like Marshawn Lattimore. Like, just because the chances that he jakes that second round pick or whatever and trades it for somebody is just too high, in my opinion. So just hide his phone until Wednesday.
All right, we'll take a break here. When we get back, let's preview the Bengals game. We'll hit on the injury report and just what we saw and what we're actually concerned about, and who knows who's playing quarterback for the Bengals this weekend. So we'll get to all of that next year on the Bears Squad Show. Today's show is brought to you by Mazda. Mazda crafts cars for those who do more than simply move. From footwork to breathwork, athletes sweat all the details, and Mazda brings the same intention to how they craft every model. You can make everyday drives feel like anything but, from smooth handling to intuitive controls. With all-wheel drive standard in every crossover SUV, you can drive with confidence through almost any season. Like our players, we sweat every detail, because when you make every move count, impossible becomes irrelevant. Mazda, move and be moved. All right, so the Bears versus the Bengals this weekend. We thought it was Joe Burrow, then it's Jake Browning, then it's Joe Flacco, and now I think we're back to Browning, it looks like. I mean, it's an AC shoulder injury, joint injury for Joe Flacco right now, so TBD on if he's in there or not. I do think it's two very different football teams, though, Lauren, when you talk about who's playing quarterback, because Joe Flacco is targeting Jamar Chase at a unbelievable rate. I think his last game was 19 targets. The game before that was 23 targets for Jamar Chase. I don't know who's playing quarterback this weekend, Lauren, but one guy makes me nervous and one guy makes me feel like the Bears are going to walk over the Bengals.
Yeah, there's definitely a noticeable gap there. I still feel like Browning is capable of big games here and there. He's had 300-yard passing games before as a starter in the NFL. Not to say that he's like some great quarterback who's going to be a big threat. They benched him and traded for Flacco for a reason. But I do feel like when you got those receivers going up against this injured Bears secondary, there's always still a little level of fear that just like, you don't got to be a great quarterback when it's Jamar Chase versus Nick McLeod. Like you just give him a catchable ball and it might be a touchdown on any given play. So I don't want to completely overlook and say, bad quarterback, because I don't think we thought Tyler Huntley was necessarily going to slice and dice the Bears secondary the way that he did last week. But that being said, like Flacco definitely scares you a lot more just in terms of getting rid of the ball more quickly, precision, timing. And that feels to me more like what the Ravens were able to do last week, where, quarterback just has some time to throw and your secondary is not going to be able to cover super long. Your pass rush is not going to be able to get home. And I think that's going to be the big key for Flacco. Like, you should be able to pressure him even better than you did Tyler Huntley, because Huntley could at least extend plays and get out of the pocket. But whether it's Flacco or Browning, like that to me is the big key. Because if you can't pass rush, no secondary is going to be all that great anyway. And especially this group, you got to be aggressive and you got to get home.
It'll be interesting to see I mean, especially if Flacco is the quarterback this week, how Dennis Allen does it. We saw him blitzing Huntley a lot early in the game, and then he kind of slowed down once they started getting beat in terms of with his legs or just quick passes. But with Joe Flacco, as Lauren just said, he doesn't move. He can't move. Like, he takes 2 steps and it takes him 14 seconds. So it's just, do you blitz him and just hope you get there and cause the pressure with the quick throws and hope that if he does hit Jamar Chase, that hopefully you've doubled with like Byard and whatever corner is covering him, and then you just tackle him right away. So that'll be interesting to see how Dennis Allen plays this, depending on who is starting. I mean, you could even do it with Browning as well, and blitz and blitz and blitz, and just force the ball out as fast as possible, and then hope you can make the tackle with the rest of your guys. But it'll be interesting how Dennis Allen comes up with his game plan for this game.
I do think Joe Flacco had a 13-yard run last week, so
It only took
a little
75
bit.
seconds to get.
I know. I was gonna say that was a quarter and a half of running.
Like, he's so slow. It's remarkable watching. I still can't believe Joe Flacco's just out there playing football. There's so many old guys now. Our old friend Mercedes Lewis just signed with the Denver Broncos, 41 years old. Like, they're just keep playing out there, guys, as long as you can.
That's the best stat I've ever seen, is who has the second most yards over 40, receiving yards, that is, over 40. It's Tom Brady. Jerry Rice is number 1. And then
awesome.
Tom Brady has like 7 or something.
That's a great statistic. That's fantastic.
But Mercedes Lewis could pass that. He'd be the oldest guy ever to catch a pass.
Yeah. This one, just if it's Flacco, I mean, it's what you say about like doubling Jamar Chase. I think you have to, pretty much from start to finish. You have to, especially now if Tyreek's out there. I guess maybe it's a little bit different, but I would almost. Oh, this might be a bad take. I'd almost put Tyreek on T. Higgins and then use 2 guys on Jamar Chase and hope for the best in that situation. Because regardless of who's at quarterback, to your point, Lauren, like Jake Browning has T. Higgins and he has Jamar Chase. Like, it's not it's the best wide receiver probably combo in the NFL right now. And no matter who is the quarterback, you can have success, especially against this Bears secondary that's so beat up.
Well, and I'm curious, Adam, you spoke to like how Dennis Allen schemes this up. Like, it's this balance where we haven't seen them really face a receiving core this good since like, the Lions game.
I was gonna say week 2.
But before the bye week, part of the reason they struggled against the run, stopping the run so much, is because they're facing these really good receivers. They'd go 2 deep safeties and play a lot of off coverage. So everyone was just handing it off against 6-7 man, or 5-6 man boxes and finding a bunch of room. And now that your cornerbacks are even more injured and you're going to go against these receivers, you're going to want 2 deep safeties again to help these guys as much as possible. So you're going to have guys out of the box. So are they just going to hand it off to Chase Brown and Samaje Perine? I mean, they've had over 140 yards in each of the last 2 games rushing. I think that's going to be their game plan. It's like, if Dennis Allen has to help these cornerbacks, then is the Bears run defense going to all of a sudden be bad again because you have to adjust and make up for these cornerbacks? And it's this lose-lose, right? You either help against the receivers and get gashed in the running game, or load up the box and take your chances against those receivers. Like, I think I'd rather give up the running plays, but I don't like either option.
Yeah, and I think that's where Gardner Johnson comes in and helps right away. The fact that, it felt like last week they played a lot of 3 linebacker sets, and with Gardner Johnson playing in that slot kind of third safety / role, whatever that is, you can take a linebacker off the field, which hurts your run defense, but also allows you to be a little more exotic in your blitzes and the way Dennis Allen can scheme it up against a Joe Flacco per se, or, whoever's playing quarterback with these wide receivers.
Yeah, and we'll see. I mean, think back to some of these games where they were getting gashed in the run game, Lauren. I mean, this is what, your first or second time, it feels like, this season against a good run game in which you'll have Grady Jarrett, TJ Edwards, Tremaine Edmonds. Like, you'll have like your core group of guys in the middle at least. So that's where, to your point, I'd rather trust that group of players trying to stop Chase Brown and P. Ryan than letting the corners live on an island. Like, I think you can win, as the Bears have shown, you can win by getting gashed in the run game. If they're scoring with Jamar Chase on the first play of every drive because you're leaving, Nashawn Wright in one-on-one coverage, it's probably going to be a little more challenging to win that football game.
That's why it feels to me like this is a game that, I mean, obviously turnovers matter in every game, but like especially in this game, right? Mm-hmm. This feels like it's going to be more like the Commanders and Raiders games where the Bears defense might force 1 punt all game, and every other drive is either points or turnovers, and you need to get a couple of those turnovers, or else it's going to be points on pretty much every other drive. And I think the Bears can keep up if they give up 30 points. I don't know that they could keep up if they give up 40 points. Like, there's a threshold in there somewhere that you go blow for blow. And I think a big difference is, like, is Joe Flacco the one throwing it quick and taking care of the ball, or is Jake Browning the one putting it in harm's way?
Yeah, and the one good thing is that the Bengals defense is arguably the worst in football. And even if, say, 2 of the wide receivers play and 2 are out, you'll feel much better about going against this defense. Now, we did say that against the Ravens, but they at least have some playmakers on that team that, you have to think about. But this Bengals team without Trey Hendrickson, it's a very bad defense. And if Ben Johnson can't create offense against this defense with Caleb Williams and the run game and everything, then I have some issues moving forward.
Yeah, I think how we started the show with Caleb, like, if he doesn't have a monster game this weekend, I think it would be disappointing. Is the Cowboys game too high of a bar to set? 300 yards, 3 touchdowns? Because the Bengals are terrible. Like, I mean, Al Golden was great at Notre Dame, but he's trying in Cincinnati. But, like, there's a talent deficiency there. So, like, I would expect Caleb to have a monster game this weekend. And if he doesn't, and it looks like how it's looked the last 3 weeks, that's when I'm going to start getting, like, a little more concerned, I think, because it's just one of those where there's no excuses. Like your 8th game of the season, and you're just playing one of the worst defenses, if not what Adam said, the worst defense in the NFL. Caleb's got to have a big game this weekend, or it's very concerning. And again, even without if everyone's not out there, they should be able to produce.
Yeah, I mean, as long as you got, like, a couple of your injured receivers back, like, if all these guys are out and it's Luther Burden and Devin Duvernay, I can have a little bit of a pause there. I know we do this, we're doing this on Thursday before the injury report comes out. But yeah, if as long as you got Loveland and, like, Odunze and, like, one other receiver at a minimum there, you should be able to put up plenty of yards and plenty of points in this game. Like, I'm not going to worry about it if Caleb has 1 passing touchdown, but the Bears scored 35 points because, they punched it in on the goal line with the running back. Like, I'm not as worried about the stat line per se, but it's the function of the offense. It's their ability to finish drives with touchdowns instead of field goals and really just, like, look sharp and move the ball easily.
Well, and that's the one thing. I mean, this Bengals defense gives up over 150 yards on the ground. Like, after last week and what we saw where it looked like the run game was going a little bit and then kind of went away from it, I want to see Ben Johnson establish the run. I want to see him, use Trapillo and those, go big with the 6-man offensive line and run the ball. Manon guy looked good last week before, stopped getting carries. DeAndre Swift has looked good. Now, he kind of, as we saw some of his carries last week, kind of went back to the old DeAndre where he was cutting way too early and not giving his offensive line time to build that hole. But I think they can really run the ball here, which will help Caleb and maybe a depleted wide receiver group coming in on Sunday.
Yeah, I'm hoping for a lot more touches for Monangai this weekend. It's 2 weeks ago, it felt like a big tease where we saw what it can look like in this dual backfield that the Bears have built this year that's performed pretty admirably. I mean, Swift has just been good, but Monangai started to come on a little bit more. So I want to see the run game get back to where it was. And the biggest thing for me this weekend is, besides just getting the win, the penalties just have to be different this week. At some point, there has to be a game where they don't have as many penalties. It's been such a problem. And again, they brought in CJ Gardner Johnson, so maybe they'll go up a little bit. But, like, the false starts, the lining up incorrectly, all of that, at some point, like, it has to stop. And Ben Johnson has just flat out said, like, basically, we've done everything that we can do as coaches. It's on the players. It's on the veteran leadership to get these things to stop happening during these games. Because, Lauren, I know you're tired of it. I'm tired of it too.
That was one of the more surprising things I think we've heard Ben Johnson say all season, and maybe since he took over as head coach. And I don't necessarily love the combination of coach says, hey, our locker room leadership needs to be better. And also, here's CJ Gardner Johnson. Like, good luck. You need to be better about not having penalties. And we better make sure that the leaders are stepping up. And here's one more challenge for those leaders to also have to deal with on top of that. Like, just a little bit precarious there that I'm not in love with as a combination.
I will say I kind of expect like 4 to 5 defensive holding, defensive pass interference calls because, I'm sure they're telling him, if Jamar Chase beats you, just run him down and tackle him. We'll do whatever you got to do to not let him get that big touchdown. And, those are the kind of penalties that, in this type of game with this defensive backfield going against these wide receivers, if you got to, take a 5-yard defensive holding because he's got you beat, take it and then live to fight another down and try and get off the field in those next 3 plays. So I think that from that defensive backfield, I think we'll see. But yes, the false starts, those kind of penalties, I don't want to see any more of those. The pre-snap offensive penalties, being offsides, I think it was Jackson, the linebacker on the punt, stuff like that. I don't want to see those type of penalties anymore.
All right, we're gonna let Adam run. He's got work to do. So, Adam, thank you for joining us for this midweek show. So we'll take a break here, and it'll be a quick break for you too. So we'll be back in about 10 seconds, right here on the Bears Squad Show on the Locked On Bears YouTube channel. All right, Lauren, final segment here of the show. So I'm just curious where you stand at this point in the season now about, when you're watching these games, because it feels like there's the 4-game win streak kind of flipped the narrative again for Bears fans, where people are really locked in on looking at playoffs. How do the Bears make the playoffs? And it felt like the growth conversation that we knew was important has kind of gone away. So as you're watching these games right now, what are you thinking of? Like, are you focused in on growth or how the Bears make the playoffs?
Yeah, it should all be towards growth. Like, playoffs just don't, like, I don't want to say it doesn't matter, because it absolutely does matter. I mean, to team success and accomplishment is the validation for everything that the coaching staff is preaching, and for the player development to be like, hey, this is what we're working towards. Like, winning games and pushing for the postseason will always matter, especially early in a regime like this. But like, we kind of see like this game against the Ravens is kind of the reminder of like, yeah, this team still has a ways to go. Like, there's still going to be like, this is what growing pains look like. This is what the learning curve looks like. It's drives that end in field goals instead of touchdowns. It's penalties that lead to punts. It's plays that are too easy for the opposing defense. That you're just like, it's the beating yourself type of moments are like the stuff that we talked about expecting entering the season, but maybe didn't always know how to visualize exactly what it would look like or feel like in a loss like that. And so like I saw the classic, like in the hunt graphic, right, where the Bears were at the top of the non-playoff teams. That feels like where things are going to stay for the majority of the season, where you're not going to see them out of the conversation entirely. And there might be a couple times where they jump into that playoff graphic when you go on a stretch against, some bad teams here and there, and you stack up a couple more wins in a row. But ultimately, this is not a playoff team. And if you do get in the playoffs, this is not a team that I trust to win, certainly not more than one playoff game, and probably no playoff games.
Yeah, I think the growth is what's important. And the playoffs would be nice. I mean, for my own sanity, I would not have to hear all offseason about how, Jaden Daniels, Bo Nix, and Drake May have all taken their teams to the playoffs and Caleb Williams has not. Just because, that's going to be a talking point nonstop from Bears fans and Bears media and national media as well. Like, people will lock in on that. But the growth is the most important part of this. And specifically with Caleb Williams, like my whole hope at the start of the season was just that when week 18, when the final whistle blew in that, last game of the year, no matter what the win-loss record was that we would have an answer, it felt like, of, do the Bears have a franchise quarterback? Like, that to me always felt like I just want to know that. Now, I think if you have a franchise quarterback, you're probably going to win enough games to be in the hunt the entire season, right? So like, it kind of goes hand in hand in a way. But like, that to me is where I look at the in the hunt graphic. I've peeked at Tankathon to see where the Bears' current draft pick stands. I haven't gotten to the point of looking at mock drafts yet for the offseason, but I'm just worried about Caleb. Like, it's just, what does the growth look like? And honestly, it's changed a little bit for me too, is not just so focused on Caleb, but something that we've talked a lot about on these shows and the post-game show specifically is Rome Odunze's growth. And like, that to me is the one that's also gotten a little, it's not been talked about enough. I think it is the drops in the, in the high pressure situations and when you got a man on top of you. So that's where I've been trying to keep an eye on. It's just those two guys primarily, it feels like.
Yeah, the Caleb franchise quarterback conversation is interesting because I think that's an idea that we all understand, but it's a lot harder to like get specific on like what does that actually look like? What does that mean? Because I think we're going to get to the end of the season and it'll be clear. And I think it's already clear. Like Caleb Williams is a starting caliber NFL quarterback. Like, even if he doesn't reach whatever potential you want to reach, like his floor is like, he's going to start for somebody. He's not going to be his floor is not a top end starter, but his floor is like long-term, he'll be a starter for somebody and make, a lower end kind of starting quarterback, even Sam Darnold's been better, but like Geno Smith, right? Like he can be that kind of quarterback. I think we've seen for sure. But like by week 18, I don't know that we're going to know, is he the quarterback you give a mega contract extension to, for example? Like, is that the threshold of like franchise quarterback? Like, I think at the end of this season, we're going to be at the point where we got to figure out from there, is this quarterback purgatory? Like, I think that's where the conversation ends up being of like next year, 2026 with Caleb will be the difference of, he's got to show us, does he deserve that big money contract at the end of his rookie deal? Or is there a more difficult conversation about, do you have to stick with this player or not? Like, and I think that's a threshold we haven't necessarily gotten to with any of the previous Bears quarterbacks. So I think that's progress and that's real. This is clearly better and different than, Fields and Trubisky and the list goes on. But like, I'm not sure that we're going to get to week 18 and say, yes, this is give him the Jalen Hurts contract next year because we're so certain that everything is certainly locked in. But we'll be certain this guy can play in the league, but how good is he actually?
Yeah, because like the worst thing you can do, and not to pick on Taylor when she's not here, is be Trevor Lawrence. Like have Trevor Lawrence as your quarterback, where you're not really sure if he's a franchise quarterback, but he's probably a good option still. So like you kind of have to give him $55 million. Like that's the worst place to be. I mean, those are the teams that are struggling the most and are in the most, just like in just the worst situation, that they've paid these quarterbacks and they can't really get rid of them. So they can't move on to the next guy. Like I look at kind of Arizona in that situation with Kyler Murray, Trevor Lawrence in Jacksonville. Just like, what are you doing with those guys?
Tua in Miami as well is a huge one there, where it's like, yeah. And like, that's the good news for Chicago is that you don't have to have that decision at the end of this year. You got a whole another season after this. I know we're getting ahead of ourselves here, but like, I think that's the pivotal conversation here. Yeah. Is this a Tua, Trevor, Kyler type of situation of like, yeah, you probably got to pay him because if you don't, you're going to go backwards. Or is this again, you don't want to go Mahomes or Burrow, Allen, but like, that sort of like maybe dare I say Jordan Love, like, like where he's good and he's worth the contract. Like he doesn't have to be Patrick Mahomes to still be worth $50 million a year. Like I think that's going to be the question we have heading into 2026 is like, which tier of quarterback is he going to be? And that, then year 2 under Ben Johnson's offense is when you really answer that question.
This final stretch of the season. So, I mean, talk about growth and playoffs and everything, but you got 4 division games still left on your schedule. It's interesting. We'll see JJ McCarthy make his return to the Minnesota Vikings. I'm still not totally convinced that he was hurt this whole time. I think it's strange to me how now his high ankle sprain is fine. He's basically dancing on the sideline as he's trying to avoid getting run over by another player. But we're seeing the Packers play good football, and we're seeing the Lions just be the Lions. So as you look at the division games the rest of the year, what are your kind of feel on how just the level of competition that the Bears will be facing?
Yeah, I mean, it sucks that you got the Vikings early on when they were playing well, and when they found, I mean, the Bears blew that game. I mean, they should have won that game, and it sucks that you don't have 2 Vikings games left to stack up what would be the 2 easiest games in the division. But like, it's tough right now with coming off the loss to the Ravens and seeing the Lions and the Packers playing. I mean, I guess the Packers have had vulnerabilities in there for sure. Like they're no invincible team. And I know Packers fans are a little bit more nervous than their 5-1-1 record would suggest, but we haven't even seen Toyotathon Jordan Love start yet. When that's a team that typically turns it on later in the season rather than early in the season. And well, you get him 3 times in 2 weeks late in the season. So I think that's part of why I don't see this as a playoff team is like, I think you're going to stack a few division losses down the line to the stretch where it's like, I think you can beat the Bengals and I think you can beat, the Giants, and you got the Browns in there, and the 49ers will probably be too banged up by week 17. Like there's going to be some wins in there that if you could just stack a couple division wins, that's the tiebreaker to win the wild card spot and get in there. But I'm not confident at this point. Like even though they beat Green Bay in week 18 last year, they still have to prove to me that they can be better than these NFC North teams because we just haven't seen it even Yet this season, they haven't beaten an NFC North team.
Yeah, the 49ers game is interesting because I was looking at the Bears schedule this morning. I was like, man, it feels like this season, like it might just be that game. Like the 49ers, they are beat up. They're going to get Brock Purdy back, but they are missing so many players. You have Christian McCaffrey who's healthy right now, but that's always a huge question mark. But the top six teams in the NFC, I'm like, yeah, those teams are all making the playoffs. Like those teams are in. Seattle's in. Like those teams are all set. San Francisco's the one that's currently the team in front of you as the 7th seed. I'm like, this season literally making the playoffs feels like it might come down to that one game because I don't trust it. Carolina or Atlanta, the teams that are behind you, or Dallas or Minnesota. It might be Bears, 49ers, winner goes to the playoffs and loser goes home.
Which kind of makes it like almost like another division game in terms of the intensity, right? You're going to have a lot of high intensity games. Packers, and then, okay, Browns not, but then Packers, 49ers, Lions, those last 4 weeks. And I fear that we're going to get caught up in the roller coaster a little bit again, where it's like, just to start, those last 4 games, the 4-game winning streak, oh, Bears are back. Everything's great. Lose to the Ravens. Oh man, Bears are terrible. Caleb Williams sucks. Everything's ruined. And then I could easily see this team beating the Bengals this week, beating the Giants the week after, and maybe beating the Vikings after that, and another 3-game winning streak and being 7-3. And it's like, oh, right, Bears are back. Bears are going to the playoffs. And then you got Steelers, Eagles, Packers, and maybe you lose all 3 of those games, or maybe you win one of those games. That's like, oh man, the Bears suck. And they beat the Browns, and then they lose the Packers, and it's just like, we're going to get caught up in this like up and down. And I think we got to like take a step back, get off the ride and look at it and say, hey, we can see the roller coaster in front of us. Like we're going to go up.
Yep.
We're going to go down. And we're going to go up and we're going down. We don't have to be scared. We don't have to be scared of heights here because we know what's coming next. Our eyes aren't closed. We can see where this ride is going.
I just need a victory against Aaron Rodgers though, Lauren. I need it. I need Caleb Williams to beat Aaron Rodgers. It'll make me feel good. It's like how last year ended. You beat the Packers on the road. You feel good going to the next year. At least get a win versus Aaron Rodgers. Like please don't let him torture us one last time as the Steelers are fighting for the playoffs. That's all I can hope for.
And the Steelers led 16-7 at halftime against the Packers, and even led 19-14 going into the fourth quarter. Like they're frisky, and I don't know if that says more about the Packers being vulnerable because they had some struggles against the Cardinals and lost to the Browns earlier this season, or if it's the Steelers being a little bit frisky there. But I'm worried about that game too. It's going to be a big one.
Yeah. All right, Lauren, where can they find you? Obviously.
Oh yeah, of course. You can hear me 5 days a week on the Locked On Bears podcast on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts, and you can follow it on Twitter and Instagram and TikTok and all the social media platforms at Locked On Bears.
All right, you can catch me, Joe, right here with Lauren most Tuesdays on the weekday show, the Bear Squad show, and then, of course, on the post-game show as well. We'll be back with you this Sunday after the Bears take on the Joe Flacco or Jake Browning-led Cincinnati Bengals. Thank you for watching. We will talk to you on Sunday. Enjoy the rest of your week,